everyone. Today we will be solving 9618 Winter 21 P41's question number 1. Okay, so this is a question about recursion. It only involves recursion and iteration basically. So let's get started. Okay, so the question says study the following pseudocode for a recursive function. Okay, so this is the function that they've given, and we have to write for the A part, we have to write program code to declare the function unknown. Okay, so basically what this is doing is that we can dry run this code, like, so just go through it step by step to just understand what it's doing. Okay, so it's a function, it's going to return an integer. Okay, so it's saying that if x is less than y, then we will output x plus y and return and call the function again. So this is where the recursion is happening. Okay, so it's going to call the function again with the same y but x plus 1 and multiplied by 2. This is if x is less than y. And it says if x is equal to y, then return 1. Now because this return is not calling the function again, it's now the bracket this x is equal to y is our base case. Okay, and else it says output x plus y, return unknown x minus 1 comma y divided by 2. So this else caters to the condition that if x is greater than y, because we have already catered to x is less than y and x is equal to y, so the only last option remaining is x is greater than y. So if x is greater than y, it's going to do the same thing over here, which is output x plus y. This is same for both of them, so we can highlight it like this. Okay, and now it's going to return unknown x minus 1 y divided by 2. So basically our base case is that x needs to be equal to y. So if x is less than y, it's going to do plus 1. If x is greater than y, it's going to do minus 1, and eventually at one point it's going to become equal to y over here as well and over here as well. And then this is going to be the base case, and then it's going to unwind. This is the when the function will run for the first time, it's going to wind, and when the base case is reached, then it's going to unwind it. Okay, so now we just for A part, we just have to copy this code into like Python, so that's not a problem actually. So we can just do it and follow it step by step. Okay. Okay, so now we're just gonna write the function code, Python code for this function. So it's gonna be unknown, and it has two parameters which are x and y. Okay. Now it's saying that if x is less than y, then outprint x plus y and return x plus 1 y into 2. Okay, so if x is greater than y, then print x plus y and return okay, x is less into 2. So we don't really need this bracket actually. Okay, and then we have to do, we can just put elif over here because there are two conditions that we have to cater to. So if x is equal to y, then this is our base case, it's going to return 1. Okay, and then else, which is going to be the case if x is greater than y, we can just copy this, and यहाँ पे आ जाएगा minus. So this is how it's going to run, and यहाँ पे slash है. And we can, because they've used div, and it says that div returns the integer value after division. So when you were using like div in Python, तो जब हम slash करेंगे तो it's gonna return, I think, the float value. So we can just put it in int over here, just to make it easier. Okay, so for the B part, it says the main program needs to run all three of the following function calls and output the result for each call. For each C function call, the main program needs to output the value of the two parameters, call the function with those parameters, and output the return value. Okay, so there's 3 steps. So okay, so what we are gonna do is, this is our main program. So first it's gonna output the value of the parameters. So we can just write 10 and 15. Call the function. So we're gonna call the function with 10 and 15 and output the return value. So what we can do is that we can just directly print this. तो इसमें तीनों steps हो गए हैं. First step was कि we're gonna print the parameters, and this step is calling the function, and this step is printing the return value. Okay, so now we have to do it for all three. So 10, 15, 10, 10, and 15, 10. So we can just copy this. So 10, 15, 10, 10, and I think 15. Yeah, 15 times. And now we have to run it. Okay, so this is supposedly our output. I'm just gonna cross check with the marking scheme, and then it's hopefully gonna be correct, and then we can just move on to the B part, which is gonna be the C part actually, which is gonna be the iterative function. So I've cross checked from the marking scheme, and this is the output that we are supposed to be getting. So at least our recursive function for now is correct, and this was easy because we just had to copy from the pseudocode that they've given. So even if you did not understand it, the code when reading it in your exam, so these 6 marks should have been easy to score. If you did not understand it, then आगे वाला part would have been मुश्किल. Not 6 marks, 8 marks actually, because you just had to copy it and run it. So the next, for the C part, it says rewrite the function unknown as an iterative function, which is iterative unknown. Okay, so for that part we need to have a little bit of understanding of what this code is basically doing. Okay, so the first thing that we need to identify is that what is our base case. Okay, so our base case is basically this, that if x is equal to y, we're going to return 1. Okay, and the rest, both the other two, are our conditions. This is what happens if x is greater than y, and this is what happens when x is less than y. So we can basically just put a while loop, which is going to run until this condition is fulfilled, because this is when our this is when our iterative function is supposed to stop, and in our recursive function this was what our base case was. So जो हमारा while loop होगा, which we're going to use in our code, it's going to have this condition, and it's going to run until x is equal to y. Okay, and inside the while loop we're going to be doing either this or this. Okay, and this is what we're going to start with, 1. सो रिकर्सिव फंक्शन में व्हाट इट डिड वाज कि पहले वाइंडिंग हुई थी जिसके अंदर पहले पूरा कोड हुआ था, और एंड में वी हैड 1, बिकॉज सबसे लाइक द लास्ट एंड तब होता है फंक्शन जब एक्स इज इक्वल टू वाई था इन द रिकर्सिव फंक्शन. सो दिस इज द लास्ट थिंग दैट वी गॉट व्हेन वी वर वाइंडिंग. एंड अनवाइंडिंग में देन वी ऑब्वियसली स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम 1 एंड देन वी वेंट टू the original value of x. Okay, so but because we're now writing an iterative function and it's not going to call the function again, so हम start ही 1 से करेंगे because इसमें winding and unwinding का process नहीं है. So we're going to have a start value of 1, and उस start value जो variable होगा, for example we can just name it total for example. Okay, and it's going to work on that variable जो total होगा, and it's going to do its operations जो ये वाले होंगे, either this or this inside the while loop. Okay, so abhi this was just in the air, so now we're going to write it down so it makes more sense. Okay, so now we are writing our iterative unknown. Okay, जिसके अंदर we're also going to pass our two parameters which are x and y. Okay, so as I said earlier is that we're gonna start from 1, जो कि हमारा बेस केस में जो रिटर्न हो रही थी वैल्यू वो 1 थी. तो वेयर गना हमारा सारे ऑपरेशंस जो हैं वो 1 से स्टार्ट होंगे और 1 के ऊपर परफॉर्म होंगे, एंड देन इट्स गना कम अप टू जो भी वैल्यू एंड में बनती है. ओके, सो टोटल हमारा फॉर एग्जांपल 1 है. अब आई सेड अर्लियर एज वेल कि हमारे वाइल दिस लूप इज़ गना रन अंटिल x इज़ इक्वल टू y. Okay, so our while loop is going to run until this condition is met. So we can write कि while x is not equal to y, we are gonna, okay, so if x is not equal to y. Okay, so now one thing, yeah, okay, this blue thing I did for help as well is that if if x is less than y or x was greater than y, जो else वाली condition इधर थी, I can write it, I think so it's more easier. This is for if x is greater than y. Okay. So in both case scenarios, जब x less than y भी था और जब x greater than y भी है, तो आउटपुट x plus y हमने दोनों में करना है. So we can just write it first without the x conditions. Okay, so we're gonna do x plus y anyways. So and now we're gonna write the what? The if conditions. Okay, so our first if condition is if x is less than y. So we're gonna write if x is less than y, then what do we have to do? अब what there's अब उन्होंने हमें hint दी हुई है जो कि hint नहीं which is part of the function is that it increments x and the y remains the same. एंड वो जब ये चीज़ जब ये फंक्शन वापस कॉल होता है तो वो उसको मल्टीप्लाई बाय टू कर देता है. तो इसकी जो भी फॉर एग्जाम्पल रिटर्न वैल्यू होगी वो उसको मल्टीप्लाई बाय टू कर देगा बेसिकली. सो इट मीन्स कि जो इन एनी वे बिकॉज वो मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है तो जो हमारी टोटल की इनिशियल वैल्यू थी या जो वन था वो ऑब्वियसली उससे भी मल्टीप्लाई हो रहा है बिकॉज फाइनल प्रोडक्ट में तो टू मल्टीप्लाई हो रहे हैं ना, चाहे वो पहले फंक्शन की रिटर्न वैल्यू से हो या पहले जो हमारा टोटल है करंटली इस वक्त जो टोटल वन है या उससे हो. द ऑर्डर डजेंट मैटर बिकॉज इट्स मल्टीप्लाइंग ईदर वे. ओके, सो व्हाट वी कैन डू इज़ ओवर हियर इसके फर्स्ट स्टेप इज़ के वी आर गोना राइट एक्स इज इक्वल टू एक्स प्लस वन. ओके, सो हमारा एक्स यहाँ पे इंक्रीमेंट हो गया and this is going to be as long as x is not equal to y because हमने while loop लगाया हुआ है. And the other thing that it's doing is कि हम लोग total को total into 2 कर देंगे. Okay, and this is going to be multiplied. And our other condition was कि if x is less than y. अब दो ही conditions अंदर use होंगी because एक यहाँ पे check हो रहा है एक यहाँ पे check हो रहा है, so the third remaining will be checked here जो x is greater than y वाली है. उसके अंदर हम लोग करेंगे x is equal to x minus 1 and total is equal to int total divided by 2. Okay, so it's gonna अब डिवीजन में भी यही है कि इट डजेंट मैटर कि वो पहले रिटर्न वैल्यू से के ऊपर डिवाइड हो रहा है या इधर टोटल भी हो रहा है बिकॉज वी आर वर्किंग ऑन द टोटल इन द एंड एनीवेज. ओके, सो यहाँ पे वो टोटल के ऊपर इट्स गना वर्क ऑन द टोटल एंड देन वी आर गना रिटर्न द टोटल. ओके, हमारा एंड ऑफ द फंक्शन होगा. सो दिस इज़ हाउ इट्स गोना वर्क द सेम वे बट इन एन आइट्रेशन. सो हमारा बेस केस अभी भी वही है कि हमारा इट्स द लूप इज़ गोना रन टिल x इज़ इक्वल टू y एंड इट्स गोना डू ऑल ऑफ दिस इनसाइड जो कि हमने इधर से कॉपी किया है रिकर्जन वाले कोड से सॉर्ट ऑफ समझा है एंड देन वी कॉपीड इट. ओके, एंड नाउ for the d part we're going to do the same thing. It says the iterative function needs to be called 3 times with the same parameters as in part b. For each of the 3 function calls, the main program needs to output the value of the 2 parameters, call the iterative function those parameters, and output the return value. Take one or more screenshots to show the output of both functions for each set of parameters. Okay, so अब हमने we have to do the same thing for this new function basically. What it's saying is okay, तो अब हम लोग इधर print पहले करवा देते हैं कि this is the recursive function and अब हम लोग print करवाते हैं कि this is the iterative function. Okay, and now we're gonna do this same thing but for the yes but for the iterative function. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy the same thing. Okay, and now we're gonna run it and hopefully it's gonna give, it should ideally give the same output. Okay, so this was our recursive function 10 and 15 से ये output आई and iterative function में same output आई and then 10 and 10 में ये output आई 10 and 10 में ये output आई and recursive में 15 and 10 में this was the output and 15 and 10 में this was the output. So the one way you could use you could check if your iterative function is correct or not is that you compare the output of the recursive function with the iterative function and they should align with each other. So this is just one trick that you could use in this question. आपको automatically पता चल जाएगा कि आपका सवाल सही था कि नहीं. So if you guys have any questions you can always ask in the comments and look forward to more videos and like, share, comment and subscribe. Thank you.